I love it. So we were talking about, and I had asked you, I love talking with you because you're you're like an encyclopedia. You know so much, and it's so helpful with the education component. Where can people find more information about you for the education component?
Yeah, that's a great question. MissLizzyHealth.com. That's where our supplements. That's the shop for our supplements, and we have. I try to provide as much education. Everything I'm saying here is all the content that I've written on the site. You know, working with researchers and experts, and try to help educate so that people are getting information and the right products to go with what they need. Um, so I did want to, I know I'm an encyclopedia, and people don't want me coming to parties, because if somebody says like, oh, like you asked her about iodine and then you're stuck in a corner for 2 hours and she won't stop talking. And I'm like, oh, but it's so exciting. It's iodine. Doesn't everybody want to talk about this for hours? I do.
Yeah. There's this TikTok video going around that goes, what do you do? I'm an accountant, because that's hilarious. That's very funny. Well, last time we were together, I had asked you about iodine, because in my brain, I'm like, oh, you get iodine from shrimp. And you're like, no, boo, let's go back. So let's talk a little bit about people who are thinking, well, I get my iodine from my shrimp or from my seaweed or things like that. Can we talk about food sources for selenium and iodine both?
Absolutely. And that's an excellent question. So food is not a reliable source of iodine, because you're factoring in many different environmental conditions, like obviously with seafood, the soil isn't a factor, but there are other factors in the ocean water, like contaminants, toxins, mercury, things that we want to be more mindful of when it comes to seafood consumption. Kelp as well. Kelp is used to clean waterways, from the research that I've done. It's a sponge. It can absorb things. So I don't have evidence about whether that's a good source of iodine, but the soil is also another factor. So where food is grown has a big impact on the amount of iodine that you're getting. And so I'm like such a nerd. I'm gonna try and like dial it in here. The goiter belt. Okay, hopefully a lot of people have heard about the goiter belt. It's been 100 years now since it was first realized. And World War I is when they first realized that our soil had deficiencies in certain areas of the country. And that's where the term goiter belt came about. And what they found was that soldiers enlisting in the military, there was a higher incidence of goiter among soldiers in certain parts of the country, and that was the northern part of the United States, and so thus the name goiter belt. And what they realized out of this is that there can be nutrient deficiencies in our soil. We don't know where food is grown, and that can mean that we're not getting enough iodine. Now, there's another big part of it, and that is halogen exposure. And that's a more modern phenomenon in the last, really since the 1970s. And so between the two, between lack of iodine in our food sources and exposure to halogens, which displace iodine in our body, their experts believe that iodine deficiency is more of a problem than it ever was. And so actually, talking about halogens, that's a huge part of the iodine discussion.
Wow. Can we talk about that more?
Let's talk about it.
Oh my gosh, I'm turning out over here. I would love to know more.
I'm so happy you asked. I love talking about halogens. All right, so iodine is part of the halogen family with bromine, chlorine, and fluoride, right? We've all heard of these. I mean, especially chlorine and fluoride. And all of these halogens, they look like iodine. They're all like in chemistry, nerdy chemistry terms, because I'm a nerd. They're all part of the same family, except that iodine is the only one that's used as fuel for your body. So your body cannot make a single hormone without iodine. That's how big it is. This isn't just like, oh, that's a nice thing to have. In my mind, it's as important as water and air. Iodine, we have it in our cells when we're born. It is vital for human life. And But bromine, chlorine, and fluoride, they all look like iodine. And so what happens is every single cell receptor, trillions of cell receptors throughout your entire body, they have an outlet made just for iodine. So that's like, you know, a plug where you need iodine. If you don't have enough iodine, or you have too much exposure to these other halogens, your body goes like, oh, that looks like iodine. Hey, let's grab that, and tries to use it. And so that creates like a disruption in the cells and hormone function and metabolic function, so much more. Okay, so much. So let me just dive in here. Bromine, there's research in science that shows that bromine is a leading cause of fibrocystic breast disease, and like you know, a precursor to other more serious breast health issues. You know, women who have like lumps, like kind of like fibrous breasts, or soreness, or breast tenderness, that's fibrocystic breast disease. As many as 50% of women in childbearing years in this country will have symptoms of fibrocystic breast disease. So we're talking about, that's a big number.
Yes.
And bromine exposure may be a big contributing factor to that. And so what's happening is that the breasts, they see bromine and they're like, oh, okay, that's cool. It's like iodine. Like, let me grab that stuff. Yeah. And then, you know, the theory is that it causes congestion in the breast, which then, you know, obviously, I won't even go into the details. Yeah. So that's why iodine is essential for breast health. Like, it is so part of your hormonal balance. Now, the next thing is that in your ovaries as well. Like, you know, ovaries, I think the statistic is that the second highest concentration of iodine in the body after the thyroid is the ovaries. That is huge. So when we're talking about fertility, we're talking about hormones, PMS, ovarian cysts, menopause, iodine is a huge part of that hormonal balance. And
PCOS?
when there isn't enough, I'm sorry?
Would PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome?
Yeah, PCOS, exactly. So, well, you know, certain experts that I've read, the theories are that when the body is deficient in iodine, it creates cysts. I mean, maybe not always, you know, but that's one possible outcome of iodine deficiency is cysts. So when you think about that, what is an iodine goiter? You know, what is a nodule in your thyroid? It's a cyst. What are lumps in the breast? They're cysts. What are lumps in your, you know, cysts in your skin? You know, deficiencies. I mean, again, I can't make blanket statements that it's always the case, but, you know, if that's happening, iodine may be an important clue here. Cysts in the ovaries, you know, all intertwined with our hormone balance and our iodine levels. So that's why I get so excited and passionate about this, because I know every woman I know suffers from one of these issues, and very few people are talking about iodine. So
yeah.